Okay. Um.
Hey,
All right. Well, this is
Good.
our first time actually having a show, so don't be nervous at all. This is real informal. Okay.
okay.
He
I'll
said he
I'll
was in for.
try.
I said we're learning together. I told him, I said don't be worried about that. We're learning together.
Yeah.
And so, I guess we'll start with we'll go around and kind of introduce ourselves. I'll start and then let David introduce himself, and then we'll turn over to you and let you tell him who you are, okay, and where you're from and stuff,
Okay.
right?
Okay. I'll do
Um,
that.
my name's Ashley Hale, and I'm from Kentucky. And I don't know if I can go tell you or not, Sue, but I had joined Newsome Paranormal here in Kentucky. It's like a paranormal group that goes around to do investigations. They're great people. I haven't got to actually go with them yet, but I know we have Octagon Hall coming up. We're supposed to investigate in April, and I'm looking forward to that. And I'm sure there'll be several other things, this year that we'll
Yeah.
be doing. But that's kind of what I've got going on. And then David, if you want to introduce yourself and tell them who you're with.
Uh, well, I'm David Hope. I'm with family. I have Dark Hope Paranormal. We like to discuss everything, paranormal, ghosts, UFOs, cryptids, like Bigfoot, etc. Uh, we'd like to start more research in the Native American field, you know, and
It's interesting.
part of the LSS Scotland, uh, the G Crypt family, lead investigator for them here in Texas. And we'd just like to learn more about culture and you as well.
Yeah.
Hmm.
We just like learning about different cultures and different faiths. And I do want to say, we want you to
Yes.
introduce yourself too and kind of tell them what you do for a living and where you're from. But if we ask anything today, we above anything, we want to be respectful.
Right.
So, like, I know
Hmm.
some faiths or cultures don't believe in talking about ghosts or paranormal things that
Oh,
much.
yeah.
They think it invites certain entities in, or uh,
Yeah.
and we recognize that. So, like, if we ask something, you think, yeah, I kind of really don't want to answer that. Just tell us, say, I'm not comfortable with that. We're fine with that, okay? I
Hmm.
definitely don't want you feeling like you're answering anything that like you or your family would not approve of. You know what I mean? So that's
Oh,
okay. If we ask something
yeah.
you're not comfortable with, just tell us, okay?
Uh-huh. Okay.
Okay.
So, yeah, let me introduce myself. I'm just feeling a bit nervous and shy. It's my first time on camera, so yeah, deal with me. So, Sugitansh, people call me Sugar because they can't pronounce my full name. So, yeah, you can call me that. And I'm from India, and I live in the northern part of India. And as you know, India has got a rich, what do you call it, mythology and culture and everything, belief system. So there are so many things and rituals which we practice in our daily lives, and there's so many superstitious beliefs we follow, and they tend out to be like urban legends to us. So yeah, I'm a guy with a tail. Like you can, I go through all these instances in daily life. Suppose I'm leaving my house and someone sneezes, then my mom asks me like, "Hey, just don't leave it like right now. Just wait for 5 minutes. Something bad is about to happen." I'm like, "Oh, okay." So, you will find such stories in every house of India. We are still a bit delusional, or maybe there would be some scientific backing behind that, and we hardly had to discover that yet. So yeah, that's me. And about my living, I do something, and I think I'm a civil engineer. I do all that stuff sometimes. So that sums up me. Okay, let's move
So
forward.
so civil engineer, that's the name, the title of what you do, pretty much.
Oh yeah, that's what I do, and I'm also a site manager and everything. Like I'm a jack of all trades. I do a lot of stuff.
I knew you worked with like building and things, but I wasn't sure what the actual
Mhm.
title was. I told David, I said, I know he
Mhm.
works
Fantastic.
with building, but I don't know what the title is, what he does exactly.
Yeah, I've graduated from like the college university and the state university of my town, and I've done my civil engineering, and then I've been working in my dad's own construction firm for like 7 years or now or something. So yeah, and we have built some good structures lately. When I'm not happy with my work, that's another thing. I want to do something else. Mhm.
I think he needs to come to America sometime. I told him he really needs to come check everything out over here. We'd love to have him.
Yeah, exactly. I'll do a lot. Uh,
Heck
Yeah.
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 mhm.
Well, as far as like, you were saying like all the different families do have, you know, stories they tell or, things like that. Is there something that maybe like, have you had any experiences yourself that you want to tell us about? Anything that's happened to you personally or
Uh-huh.
anything like that?
Yeah, like the only thing that, like, I always had a flair for paranormal activities and, knowing about stuff and everything, to discover whether it's a myth or reality. So the only instance which I have gone through in my real life is like the reincarnation thing. Like in my family, there was a guy, and he was an old guy, and he died mysteriously. Maybe it was a long-term physical ailment or something, but he just died, and he had a lot of wealth. So he used to live in what do you call it? A village. He was living in a village,
Mm-hmm.
and he used to hide his money in his farms all the time. Like he used to dig a hole and hide his money there, just because he didn't had a safety deposit locker or something. This was back in 1990s. So at that time, like there was not too much development in India, and the banks were not accessible by everyone. So he just did that, and he died mysteriously. And he used to like love his wife a lot. So after like 2 years, a little kid was born in his locality, and he claimed that he's the same guy, but people didn't believe it. Like he used to tell, "Hey, that's my wife," and people used to be like, "No, that's someone like your granny. You can't call her your wife." But the kid was adamant, and he used to like go to her house and sit close to her and
Wow.
sip tea with her. Yeah, it was very interesting. Like everyone used to see that kid waking up early in the morning and leaving his bed and going to the house of her neighbor, and that he used to like sit there and eat with her and sleep with her, not cuddled up, but like sleeping in a way. So then later people suspected, like, maybe this woman has like brainwashed the kid, and that's why the kid is always clinging to her. But then the little kid said, "No, I'm just the same guy, and I have like buried tons of no, not tons, like a specific amount of gold in my farm." And people said, "Where it is?" So he just went there, and everyone dig that thing out. So people believe that it's him. So, but
That's
then he
cool.
grew up, yeah, and now I think he's now 17 or something, and now he doesn't recall any of it. Like all his memory has been wiped out, but at that time, he did all that. And now, when you ask him, he's just dumbfounded. He doesn't know anything. He doesn't remember anything. I think it's a way of him moving on in his life.
Right.
So, I've seen stuff like that.
That's pretty wild, though. I mean, that really
I
is.
know.
And you hear stories about that, like with little kids, especially telling about their past life and stuff, and it does make you wonder. I mean, I don't
Yeah,
know about that. You know what I mean? But how would he have known that? That's really interesting.
exactly. Like I've seen it from my own eyes.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
Well,
Mhm.
do you have any like other like stories or anything that maybe your mom or anybody tells you or any?
Yeah, like my mom used to be like when we were living in the old house, like we moved in this building like 8 years ago. So earlier we used to live in an old building, and that's the place where I was born. So my mom and even me, we used to hear the voices of a little baby like cooing all the time. So we used to think, maybe it's just a kid in the neighborhood, because it was a huge house and there were like tenants and other families also. But sometimes late at night, we used to like, hear some voices. And sometimes we even got our bellies scratched by something. Like, it felt like
Oh
someone had
wow!
like scratched your belly, and then you wake up and then you can even see the marks on your skin. So my mom used to think like it's me. Like I like in
Right.
India, like until unless we are teenagers and until unless we reach our puberty, we actually sleep with our parents. So my mom used to think like I'm just playing a mischief with her and dad, but I was
Okay.
like, no, I can't do it. Like, I just pass out very quickly. Stuff like that used to happen, and then then someone just in my house, I think it was one of our tenants, and his daughter, she got possessed by a spirit or something, and she was not eating. She was very unwell, and then in India, like, there's a lot of spiritual belief. People call it superstition, but
Mm,
there's something behind that. So we brought a priest at home, and he did all the ritual like cleansing, as you guys do. So in here we actually
right.
do something like we burn the incense, and we do the all the pyro kind of thing. So after that, it was discovered that there was a little baby like a few decades ago in the house, and she died because her mother like wrapped her in a blanket and she just suffocated in it. So it was the soul of that little baby, which was haunting the house all the time. And then it was just that little baby trying to fetch our attention with like scratching and everything. So then we did a ritual and we just worship for her to
Right.
like emancipate her soul. And since then, stuff like it used to still happen, but it like diminished a lot. Like it was no longer harmful or scary. And it is also a fact, a psychological backup that when we know that it was a spirit of a little baby, so we were like, oh, she can't do anything. She was just a baby. So maybe because of that, we just got all the
Right.
valor inside our mind.
That's
Yeah,
pretty wild though that you had that happen to you. You know what I mean?
Did help her pass, right?
yeah. It happens like stuff like that keeps on happening. It's just like earlier we didn't had too much internet and everything, so we used to take interest in all that, and that's how we used to grasp it. But nowadays, you ask people, they're too busy on their smartphones, so they can't hardly see any ghost or a spirit. They're too busy. So
Right.
yeah, I was a millennial kid.
Mm.
I
Mhm.
won't talk about
Well,
how old I
may I ask a question?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
May I ask a question? Okay.
Yeah,
You know how
definitely.
like we have the legendary Bigfoot over here in the
Oh,
United
uh-huh,
States?
uh-huh.
Is there a cryptid creature that's famous in India like that?
Yeah, in the upskirt of Himalayas, like the Himalayas as we all know. So we are being told that there is a Yeti,
Right.
we call it a Yeti, the Bigfoot Yeti. So they say like it's
Oh yes,
prevalent and people can
yes.
see the footsteps of him. So sometimes people say it's like I tell you like in the ancient time when the earth was just starting and it was the time of evolution. During that time also like they were like humans who were like 10 or 12 feet long, tall, and they say like some of them have been granted immortality by God. So those people are still here and they will be here doing the God's work and they will be like doing their meditation in the caves of Himalayas, and they will just like when like in every religion they say that one day
Right.
God is come down from heaven and kill all the evil people and establish its rule. So they are saying that deity is like like staying here until God's like descends from the heaven and does his work, and then he's gonna help
Right.
God in doing the battle and everything. So yeah, people have spotted him sometimes. Like it's a big 10 or 12 feet tall white figure, and it's quite hairy, as they say, So it's like a walking polar bear on 2 feet, something like that.
Right.
Mhm.
Well,
Wow.
I would believe it's
Yeah,
all possible, for it to
yeah,
exist
exactly,
there, you know.
exactly. Mhm.
Do they say
Most of
mean
mhm.
or like is it supposed to be something feared or what's your belief on that?
Like they don't they don't feel it as a curse. They just feel like that this shows that there is God, because if they are mythical creatures for real, like they are not myths anymore, if they are like the supernatural entities, then it also strengthens our belief that okay, there is God, there's a concept of heaven and hell, and someday
Right.
he's gonna come. So it just like makes people feel better. And I don't think anyone jokes about it. People just are curious about it. People want to see it, and people want to like sometimes talk to it, but it's hardly possible. And there most of the time these instances are like connected to the temples. Like I tell you another story. Like there was a warrior, I think a few thousand years ago, and he at that time it's being told like that nuclear power was available to the Indians even in the ancient time. Most of the time, like Oppenheimer, he read something from India, like a spiritual document, and he then make an atomic bomb. So people say like at that time that warrior, like, he wanted to explode an atomic bomb and kill everyone. So he was also like, cursed. The god at that time put curse on him. Like, okay, you won't die. You will be like walking on this place until I come back, and that's gonna be your punishment. Like, you will be suffering, and all the people are gonna die, and you'll be here alone. So people say that that warrior, like he all the time, like there's a particular temple in the state is called Madhya Pradesh in India. It's near to my state, and they say that the temple it gets closed in the evening 8 p.m. and it opens only in the morning 6 a.m. But someone every 4 a.m. in the morning, someone just goes there and worships it,
Yes, I've heard of this.
and they can exactly. And there are like flowers and incense being lit, and even despite they have installed the security cameras, nothing came up. But it just happens. So stuff like that happens, and it's for real. So this shows that there is something which is beyond the concept of science, and it's not a work of fiction. It is happening, but we can't decipher it how it's happening.
That's really interesting. It really is.
Yeah,
That's great.
I
So I was
know. I
gonna
know.
make a point of asking you about that.
Uh-huh.
I've always wanted to go
Yeah.
there and see that. You know.
Yeah, it is called the place called Bhangar, a fort called Bhangar. That's how you pronounce it. So it's in MP. It's a very secluded area, and it's like a suburban place. So it's not like not a very touristic
Yes,
fascination. But yeah, it is just a simple place.
Yeah.
Mhm.
How close are you to that? About how
but
close
it's
are
a
you?
I
it's
think
beautiful
I
though.
think
You know.
yeah, I think 700 or 800 kilometers from my house, quite
Oh,
far away. Or maybe 350. I'm not sure about the distance, but it is just like in hundreds. 200 or something. Mhm,
okay. Okay.
Oh, okay.
mhm. So
Well,
tell me about what happens in Kentucky.
what do you want to know about Kentucky?
And you wanted the story or something?
um,
Cool.
well, I mean, I think it's a lot. We're alike in that, I'm from Appalachia, which is, in the eastern part of the state. And, here, they're kind of the same way here about if you talk about things too much. A lot of the older people believe that, you shouldn't
Uh-huh.
because, they joke about like if you see something in the woods, no, you didn't, just ignore it, kind of
Yeah,
thing.
just ignore
Because
it.
they think that if you
Yeah,
acknowledge it or you talk too much about it, that you are kind of
Yes,
inviting things. That's like a
yeah.
lot of the older people believe that. I will say a lot of the
Mhm.
younger generation are kind of more open to discussing things than
keeping it there.
yeah, yeah. And but we believe in you hear stories about Bigfoot
Right.
around here, you hear stories about different kinds of cryptids and things. And I'm only about probably have you heard of Mothman, the legend of Mothman?
Oh,
There
never.
was a
No.
movie about it, things like that. I'm only about an hour and a half from Point Pleasant, West
Yeah.
Virginia, which is where
Oh, okay.
Mothman originated and where Mothman's supposed to be from.
Oh
Um,
my God.
it's the one. Richard Gere was in the movie. Probably I don't know how many years ago it was, but
Oh,
they had a major movie. There's been a bunch of movies about it, but Richard Gere was actually in the main movie about
okay.
Mothman.
Okay.
But we have a lot of stories around here, and there's tons of ghost stories from. I mean, I could tell the ghost stories all day long. I'm sure things that people have seen and heard, and Um,
Mhm.
but one thing I did want to ask you, just because I'm not as
Well,
familiar, I'm
from the
really interested.
Indian aspect, and
What'd you say, David? I'm sorry.
I was just saying from the Native American aspect. I was just saying from the Native American aspect, and to all the like the wars and stuff that's gone on in that area and industry. You know,
Mhm.
y'all have a lot of history over there.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah, yeah, we do,
if you
and
really look into it.
yeah, there's a whole lot of too. You can drive. You can find like Civil War sites and things like that. A lot of cemeteries around here have a lot
Right.
of history to them and things like that. I mean, there is a lot of history here. Um, and then Texas is the same way. I mean, what are some things that you have going on there, David? Because I know Texas is you got a lot there too to talk about as far as sites and things that are that you places that you go. I know what's that
Yeah,
one
it is
like
a big
Hell's
place.
Gate. Hill's Gate, is it
Yeah,
that you go to there sometimes and investigate?
and people always say that things are
Oh,
big
Hell's
in
Gate
Texas. So it better be
the
big.
other day.
Yeah, he. I was going to get you to tell him about Hill's Gate.
But
That's near him.
yeah, it's just got a real bad history.
Uh,
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
that place just has a lot of history to it, and a lot of bad things happen around it and at it. But I've never felt anything bad there. You know, not to
yeah.
say there's not. You know,
Well, and it's
that's
that
just
way
me.
too. Yeah,
You
well, a
know,
lot of groups will go in and investigate these places, and some of them that have been even shown a lot on TV shows, like ghost hunting shows and stuff, and then they go and don't find anything. So I think, and sometimes I think there can be activity one day, and the next day somebody get nothing at the same site. But I think sometimes things are played up too, like their legends, the
exactly.
stories told are bigger than the place themselves. You know what I mean? So it's a combination, and it's hard to kind of figure out sometimes what's going
Oh
on
yeah,
there.
yes, yes.
Yeah, but I was trying to see, but I was going to ask you too because I don't know a lot about
But you still want to go
like
to Octon Hall, right?
huh? What'd you say? I'm sorry.
I was saying that you were saying that you were going to go to Octagon Hall, pretty right?
Yeah, they booked it for
That you're going to go to
April.
Octagon Hall.
Yes, yes, and
That's going to be good. I've heard
yeah,
none but good things about that place.
me too. Everybody that goes there, they
I
say
wish I
that
could
from
be
the
there.
time. Yeah, I wish you could too. You ought to come up and go with us. But they say from the time you get there until you leave that there's stuff happening. There's like they've seen things, hear things, just all kinds of stories of. I know the last group that went there, they had a cabinet door that was like right in front of them trying to open, like somebody was trying to open it, and chains rattling
oh,
in the basement, and somebody saw a woman, like a figure
Wow.
over beside the tree outside. I mean, some pretty significant stuff happened with the last group that I know that went. So I'm
okay.
hoping that that'll be a really good.
Fascinating.
Yeah, it will be.
So
But
is it like a house of horror and freak? Like all that is it a setup or is
no,
it happening for real?
no, it's not a
Oh,
setup. It's not a setup. It's an actual like historical place. It's just supposed to be
oh,
really well known haunted. The story behind part of it is there was a small girl like years ago that was supposed to be in the basement, and I think an ember from the fire had like fell out onto her dress, and she
oh,
and she like burned alive, and
okay.
and
Address.
they so it's really that's really a
Yes.
sad story, but there were many other stories there too, and they've hear things move, just it's just a really active location. That's like I'm
Mhm.
also really close to I don't know if you've ever heard of it there, but have you heard of Waverly Hills Sanitarium?
No, I
Okay.
didn't.
It
I'm
was
sorry.
no, it's okay. It's okay. It just
Mm,
in America, a lot of people have heard of it just because it's known to be really haunted. I know
okay.
there's some controversy right now, I think, going on with the site as far as
The
ownership
history.
and things. Yeah. So, like, I'm not going right now just because I want them to be
Right.
able that to be settled in the correct way before I go. And I know there's a lot of things going on, but I'm probably about
Right.
3 to 3.5 hours from there, and
Mhm.
it used to be a tuberculosis hospital, and
Okay.
it was also an insane asylum at one point. Um,
Yes.
but it is known to be really active, like really active. Like for instance, there's I think it's the main lobby area. I don't want to quote this
Mhm.
for sure because, like I said, I'm talking after people and I don't know, but they say that there's I want to say like 10 foot tall black entity. They say it's like a gigantic thing that you can see, like that comes at times in that lobby area. They've caught it on film, different
Oh,
things, and there's some other certain floors and certain rooms that are known to
mhm.
be extremely active.
Cool.
Um, People get touched and scratched, and I've heard tales of. Have you ever heard tales of like a doppelganger, where they talk about like that
Mhm.
you might be walking and like say you were with
Yeah,
David, and you were
yeah.
talking to David, and you go to the next floor, and then you see David again, and then it
Yeah.
turns out it's not really David. Then he runs you go the other
Exactly.
way. Like they've had
I
people
know.
had that kind of thing happen there as well. So
Uh-huh.
you know, there's just all kinds of weird things that happen there.
Mhm.
And like some of the people that were tour guides there, that they talked
Mhm.
about it, they had gotten to where they actually knew certain, like almost had a relationship with certain entities. Like they were that, like, you know, there's residual haunting where it's just noises and, you know, kind of like glimpses of what happened. But there
Mhm.
seems to be a lot of intelligent haunting there, like things that are aware and
Mhm.
know, you know,
Mhm.
people
I think
and what's going
StreamYard's
on.
messing up.
It's
Is it
like what was happening.
is it cutting in and
Like,
out?
no, it's clear. I can hear you very well.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
But I was going to ask you one thing. I did want to ask is, you know, like you've heard of like the Day of the Dead and like festivals in countries where
Mhm.
they celebrate like the dead or have things
Mhm.
like that. Do you all have anything like that in India? Any kind of your
Yeah.
festivals or celebrations?
Yeah.
Like,
Exactly. Like in here, we have got like establishment for everything. So the deceased souls, like as you guys do the Halloween and everything. So we actually, it's not like a very prompt and showy thing at that time. Like it
Right.
happens in the late September or in the early Octobers. It's a day for 15 days. It's devoted
Uh-huh.
for your, like the deceased soul of your family. Like if you have got a grandfather who has died, or a young person who has died, or your child or your brother or your like wife or anyone. So like for the 15 days, like each and every day is being assigned
Uh-huh.
to a particular soul. So it starts with the first day and it's for like your forefathers, like your grandparents. So you can do rituals for them. What we do in our house is usually like we cook food, and we have to know like what would they like this, like a particular thing, like if they loved a particular sort of pudding, then you have to make that
Wow.
pudding and offer it. But suppose if you don't know, because sometimes you won't know what your grandparents used to eat, so what you do, you just like cook the basic regular food, which is rice and chapatis and some veggie and some sweet, like assorted sweet or
Right.
something, and you have to like make out like 5 portions of it. So the first one goes to the cow. Like in India, you can see spot cows anywhere. Like there are cows walking on the street in every place. So one you can just like offer it to the cow. The other goes to the dog. Like there are so many stray dogs also in here. And the third one goes to the crow. Like we have got crows and ravens. So and you wouldn't believe me. I've seen the crow, like he grabbed a little bit of it and he just flew away. So and the fifth and the fourth one is like you just put it out on the roof of your house, because it's believed that the spirits descend from heaven and they come on the roof. And the fifth one is like you just keep it on the crossroads, so anyone can just like eat it, even if it's a human. Like there are homeless people and they can like pick it up and eat it. So yeah, stuff like that happens, and there are like 15 days assigned
oh,
for that. And yeah, there's a provision for the souls also to get
That's
emancipated
great.
by that. Like they know that, yeah, that they know that we are like paying homage to them, and we are like respecting them in a way. And I've seen people who don't do it, and
Mhm.
sometimes their forefathers are not happy with them, and then they are not very healthy, like they suffer with the health problems and everything. So it is being told like your forefathers are in heaven sitting next to God. So if you keep them happy, they're going to whisper in the ears of God, hey, this is my grandson, he's doing something for me, bless him. So it's like stuff like that. That's one way to put it up. So yeah, we do all that, but it's a different concept. Like we don't do the cross dressing and everything. But then after that, we do a somewhat similar to Halloween. And in the villages, the kids, they dress up and they make a scarecrow, and they make the scarecrow get worshipped to another thing, like another fun thing, and people are doing dress ups, and they are playing with firecrackers. But the motto behind that is like they're celebrating the cultivation of the new crop. At that time, they are harvesting the crops of wheat and barley and everything. So when that's done, earlier, India is an agro-based economy. Everything was based on agriculture. So when people were done with their crops and everything, they needed some sort of amusement. So they developed all these plays like cross-dressing and playing and going to houses, doing the trick or treating. They do that. Like they dress up and they go houses and they get the sweets and everything. So that was a similar concept like Halloween. So I think yeah, we do that too. We do everything. We are celebrating almost everything. It's like every second day there's some festival in India, especially among the Hindus.
That's
Yeah.
awesome, though.
Uh-huh. I think I sent you a video also of something a few days ago. Like, hey,
Heck
this looks
yeah.
like Halloween. Yeah. Mhm.
I like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll forward it to you also, David. I sent it to Ashley like 2 or 3 months ago in October.
I love
Uh-huh.
seeing things like that. I love anything like
Mhm.
that you send me. I think that's so interesting.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
can you think of anything else to ask him right now, David?
Yeah. Feel free.
What was you gonna say?
No, I said, did you have anything else you could think of to ask him right now?
Are there any like popular ghost hunting shows
Oh yeah.
in India?
Like the popular ones are like, okay, there is
Uh,
something I can tell you.
here, you know.
Mhm. Yeah, there's something like which has been prevalent from a long time. It was like there was a queen and she was murdered during the, like, in India, there was a British rule at some point of time in the 19th century or something. The Britishers were like ruling India. So at that time, there was a queen and she was like dethroned and she was being
Uh,
killed. So her fort is still like haunted. So that is something like it's a haunted fort. It's called a fort of Asitgarh or something, and it's like one of the hotshot haunted places in India. Like people go there. There like in India also there are like upcoming paranormal investigators. They have got their instruments like those magnetic thing. The magnetic needle it just deflects when
Right.
there's some ghost
Are you
entities.
talking about the EMF reader
oh,
things
the
that the check?
Uh-huh.
K2s.
Yeah, the K2 maybe.
Yeah. So stuff like that is also
Or
in here,
well, that's
and
one of them. But
but
yeah,
the Mhm. But the thing is, like, those paranormal investigators, they give up on their profession because it's a freelancing thing. And if they don't get paid out something, so they can't continue it because, you need money to continue your research. So until unless they are like very rich kids. And then, their interest also fades when they don't see any recognition in here
oh
because
yeah.
there are people who always like criticize them for doing all that. And there's no support from the local public also. But one thing is very interesting. I shall tell you, like this is like a scientifically proven thing also. Like when I'm a Hindu, so when we people die, we just take the dead bodies to the bank of River Ganges, which is the holy river Ganges, and it is also one of the most polluted river in the world because we have been doing bad stuff to the river all the time. Like we dump bodies in there, and there's like the treatment plants, sewage, and everything is being like submerged in the river. So there's so much aquatic life compromise in there. So it's not a nice river anymore, but we usually like take the bodies there and we set it on fire. Like we do the cremation. So we don't bury the bodies. We have to do the cremation. So usually when you cremate a body, you have to wait there.
Okay.
Uh, So you have to wait there, and there's a procedure in which you have to break the skull of the body. So that skull breaking procedure is also very necessary. Like if you don't do it, like the scientific part to it, like the cranium is the strongest bone in your body, and if you don't do it, then your brain is still like preserved inside it. So there would be a stray dog or something, and it can come and like start devouring
Wow.
the dead remains of the body. So that's another thing. But and the occultist side of it is like they're like those tantrics, we call them, the people who are like practicing black magic and everything. They can actually take the skull of a particular dead body and they can do a possession and they can actually like capture its spirit, and then they can use its spirit to like doing their dirty deed. Like they can make the spirit like haunt someone. They can make their spirit like steal for them or do something, anything
Ah,
for them. Like they keep them as their, what do you call it, like slaves. So that's one thing which my parents told me. Like, it's very necessary to do that thing. Whenever you are doing a cremation, you have to make sure that there's a puncture wound in the skull, because if you don't do that, then there's high chances that someone is going to take care. Like no one cares
right.
when you leave that place. So you have to stay there and make sure that everything is done.
Wow.
uh, yeah,
Yeah.
that's something very dark.
Right.
Well,
Right.
but that's
Yeah.
that's super interesting. I've never heard. I mean, in all the
uh
TV shows I've watched, I've never heard that. So I mean, that's really
yeah.
interesting.
I think they're just too shy to admit that in public, because it
Yeah.
also brings disgrace. Like hell, what sort of people you are? You don't even have mercy for the dead people. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's just that black magic thing.
Oh no.
Mhm. Well, people are also very superstitious in here. Like, they will throw a lemon in your house or a piece of bone in your house, and they will pray, like, that bad things happen to you. It's like some sort of a black magic, uh, trick they try to do. So I think it's just like superstitious beliefs also,
What?
which are being prevalent in the people. Mhm,
But that's really interesting. It truly is. I'm
mhm,
trying to think.
Last time I met a person here in Iraq, and I was talking about spirits and ghosts, and
mhm,
black magic and stuff. And they're like, I don't believe
mhm,
in any of that. It won't hurt you.
mhm.
And I'm like, oh, okay, that's your insight, your view, your opinion. Okay.
Yeah,
I tell you, it's
exactly,
not for everybody,
exactly,
you know.
exactly. People don't have to coincide with your beliefs to believe them. Like, wait for that thing to happen with you, and maybe then you will be a believer. So, yeah,
Right. Exactly.
yeah, yeah,
Like I told him, well, if you ever hear anything or have a problem, just
mhm.
contact me. You know,
Yeah, exactly,
I'll
exactly.
still be more than happy to help them. You know,
Uh-huh.
We appreciate you talking to us so much because I've learned a lot today just from what you've been telling us. I think I've
I
heard
know.
several. I mean,
heck
I've
yeah.
I'm
heard
very,
several things I didn't know before.
I'm very talkative.
But that's good. We like it.
Yeah, I know.
I'm trying to think of
That's
what else I
great.
had gone. Yeah, I mean, I
Mhm,
had gone through too some things, that I wanted to ask you, and I'm trying to think right off what all,
mhm,
because you covered, a lot of the things.
mhm.
Can you think of anything else right off, David? Is there anything else you want to
Yeah.
ask us? You can ask us anything
Mhm.
else you want to ask too.
Uh, yeah. Go ahead, partner. Is there
Okay,
anything you'd
so
like
shall I go?
to ask? No.
Um, yeah, let me think of something. I'm trying to recall some incident. Um, Yeah, like I've seen people doing premonitions also. Like sometimes they knew what's gonna happen. Like in my family also, it was my mom's sister, and it was her. She always used to like. She was in a very depressive state, so she was always under depression. But in that state also, like she used to make a very apt premonitions. Like she used to tell, "Hey, I know that particular thing is going to happen, and I know that someone is going to die very soon." And this time, she was like predicting her own death to my mom. She used to tell my mom, like, "Hey, if something happens to me, you have to take care of my son." And my mom was like, "Hey, don't talk like that." So we were thinking like she's talking out of depression, but in this year in August only, like she died, and she
Right.
died like she was okay. She had a brain hemorrhage or something, and she was in ICU, and then she died. So it is also believed that when you're about to die, actually,
Right.
like deep inside, that your time is up, and you start making arrangements. Like if something is going to happen to me, that's the whole concept of like writing a will, like what's going to happen to you, because we usually do get premonitions. It's like a feeling of deja vu. You know that something bad is gonna happen or something good is gonna happen. So it just happens like that. So yeah. In the meanwhile,
Yeah.
you guys
It's
talk and
amazing
I'll
that some
try
people
to.
have that gift that can tell.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I know a lot of people that do that. They have dreams and things and know when
Mhm.
things are happening as well.
Yeah, I dream a lot of nightmares all the time. Like I'm always like in
Right.
my sleep, I'm suffering from a nightmare, and that's another reason. Let me show you. I'm going to dream catcher in my room because I'm too afraid. Uh, so yeah, did you see the dream catcher? Did you catch it on cam?
Right.
Yeah, it is
Little
good.
insurance.
Yeah.
That's
So
nice.
um, I'm always like in a nightmarish
Heck
state.
yeah.
So
Well,
did you guys also like did you guys also like
we'd love to
encounter
have you back
something?
on this again sometime.
Mhm. So do you guys also like encounter something supernatural in your
You
life,
know?
like something in real life, like gone through something?
Yeah, I mean, I have had things happen, and I know that David, on some of his investigation, he probably
Yeah.
has stories to tell. So
Okay.
I don't know if you want to tell something you've had happen in
Yeah.
particular, David.
Just things that's happened over the years, you know, go
Mhm,
somewhere and get scratched or uh
mhm,
be with other people and then they get
mhm,
uncomfortable, you know, and have to leave, you know.
mhm, uh-huh. And is that thing for real? Like I've seen the crystal balls and everything. Do they really predict future? Like, or is that just a way of making money? I've seen the gypsies doing that crystal ball thingy. Is that for real?
Well, I think it depends on who's doing it because I think there are a lot of people that scam people and just do whatever.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, there are people that
Yeah.
can like scry and see things. There are people that can do that.
Okay. Okay.
That's my opinion.
Mm.
I don't know what
Mhm.
David thinks.
Yeah, I know. Like I think I sometimes
Well,
think
that's
okay,
like
you're just doing.
one of my questions,
Mhm,
you know, do people really believe in Satan, you know?
mhm,
And some people I've talked to is like, yeah, you know, this and you know, and I was like, yeah, but okay. I think it would be
mhm,
too easily staged, you know.
mhm, mhm.
You know, you'd have to really know the people that you were with
Exactly. Like it has to be a legit person
and
doing
the
it.
conditions of the environment there.
Yeah. Like I hit several
Right, right.
random
You
people on
know,
the internet. They're like random people on the internet. They're just like messaging you and asking, "I'll do a free tarot reading," and and then they will like say, "Okay, then you have to pay for it." Like they will tell you
yeah.
initially something, and as you start to take interest, they'll be like, "Hey, no, you have to pay more if I have to do that." I'm like, "Hey, come
Yeah,
on,
that'll
don't
be
scam
$50.
me." That should be $50. I'll be like, "I'm broke."
Right,
So
exactly. I've been
I
a
can't
victim
get
of that
people to do.
myself, you know.
Oh my God. Oh,
I didn't get the
I'm
reading or
totally good.
nothing, but yeah, they got in
Uh-huh.
contact with me first, you know.
Oh God. Yeah, these people, scammers.
Yeah, I think there's scam artists in
This,
about any area though, and then there's some people that are legit.
Hmm. Hmm.
right.
And then what about those urban legends? Do you guys have any of them in there? The urban legends that they say, like, I've heard about Bloody Mary or something. Like, is that like I think I've seen a movie. It was in my teenage days, so I thought, oh, okay, that's really great. So just that stuff like that happened.
Yeah, there's lots of them around.
Right.
There's lots of urban legends like that. Can you think of some local to you, David?
Yeah. Uh, not offhand. You would have to ask, but now, not offhand, not here, you know,
Hmm.
which I'm sure is. It's just
Hmm.
I spend so much time working, I probably just never hear it.
Mhm.
I would ask my son. He's gone. You know.
Okay.
Well, that's like, around here there's Bigfoot legends, and then like I talked about with the Mothman, the story about Mothman around here. Everybody talks about that.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
there's lots of. I'm just trying to think of a lot of old superstitions and things. I can't think right off of anything. I know it's awful, but just like I'm drawing a blank all of a sudden about.
I know. I know. Next time you will have to like write a script
Right.
and read
Yeah,
it.
yeah. I was thinking so hard about the stuff to ask you about India and things that I wanted to know that I wasn't thinking that much
Yeah.
about making notes about myself and
Uh,
things in
I
the
think
family.
you wanted to ask me like how many religions are being practiced in India. Like
Yeah,
India's
yeah.
got
I was curious about that
yeah,
too.
yeah. So I think like there are dominantly four religions that are being practiced. Hinduism is like we are Hindus, so we are in the majority, and then there are Muslims. So they invaded India, and now they have a fair share in the country. So they are also there, and then we have got Christians also because the Britishers were here when they started missionaries. So most of the time they converted a lot of people, and there are like so many Christians, especially in Goa. And the Portuguese people used to come to Goa, so those people are like the ancestors of those people. They stayed in here, and in the Union territories also there are so many Christians. And then Sikhism, like you see those people who wear turban over their head, so the people who are majorly in Canada also. So we have got Sikhs, and Buddhism is also like increasing a lot lately. Like there are so many followers of Buddhism. It's just a derivative of Hindu religion. So yeah, there are Buddhisms, and most of the time, yeah. And because of that, you won't believe me. Like we have got a calendar, and in that, if you like, minus the Sundays, there is still like 167 holidays because there are so many religions in India, and everyone has got a particular day coming. So every second day, the bank is closed, the government offices are closed because there's a particular festival, and you're like, oh God, so there's a blind rush, a race of people trying to be in the government jobs because they think, there will be so many off days. So that's another drawback
Man.
of.
That's wild. I had no idea. That's crazy.
I
I
know,
think it would
like
be really hard to move there and to
Yeah,
learn
that's
all these
fascinating.
things you're telling me about. Like, I think I would be so lost trying to learn all the
I know
holidays
there
and
are like
festivals and things.
there's so many holidays, and the fun part is like the languages. And can you believe how many languages are being spoken in India? I think more than 37 languages. Like if you move like 400 kilometers to a particular place, the
Wow.
language will be, there will be a different significant change in language or accent or something. Sometimes, like in the southern part, they speak Malayali and Tamilese or something. So you can't understand if a southern person is talking to you because boom, he's just speaking gibberish. So there's another thing, like, there's a language barrier in
Right,
every state. And you
right.
just can't fit in if you're like, if you're a guy from North and if you're seeking a job in South, those people are just like, you wouldn't fit in. You wouldn't like it in here because no one is going to talk to you. And then the food also changes. So yeah, they eat a lot of fish and curry.
I I had no
Yeah.
idea that there were that many languages there. Also, I really didn't know
Yeah.
that.
I'll tell you a funny incident. Like one of my friends, and she's from Scotland, Sarah, and she came to see me like a few days ago. And she's from Scotland, and they eat a lot of beef and everything. So she was asking, like we went to a restaurant, and she was saying, "Can I order some beef?" And I was like, "No, don't even say that," because in here, like cows are like gods to us. Like we worship cows, and I said,
Right.
"Hey, you can't eat a
Sacred.
god in here." And she was like, "Oh
Right.
God, I'm so sorry. Did I hurt your feelings?" And I said, "No, you didn't hurt my
Right.
feelings. But if you are found eating a beef burger, then you'll be jailed for like 20 years. So 20 years for eating a beef burger. And if you kill someone, then you'll get out of the jail in 14 years." I was like, really? Oh God, that is crazy. But then she goes to Goa, and in Goa, like you can
Wow.
eat beef. and you can eat anything. So she's in Goa, and she keeps telling me today I eat a nice savory beef. And I'm like, okay, just don't make me drool. And then I realize I'm a fucking vegetarian. So that's another thing. I used to eat meat, but I stopped eating meat for the past 15 years. So my mom actually oh yeah, one more thing. That's
Wow.
something let me tell you a very significant thing. Like it happened to me. So like when I was in my class 10th, I really don't know what you call it, high school or something. So when I was in my high school, so I met a road accident.
Right.
I was crossing the road and someone just like ran over me and I had a fracture in the skull and it was like bleeding and no one touched me because they thought I'm dead. So no one wants to like get in a police
Oh,
case or something. So no one touched me and I had a huge blood loss. And then my parents came and they rushed me to the doctors. And then I was in ICU and my blood group is O positive. So, O positive people are universal donors, but when it comes to accepting someone's blood, it has to be O positive.
oh,
So then they were like doing tests on my family members, and at that time, no one
right.
knew what their own blood group because they were not very aware of it. So it was recovered like my mom is the same blood group, and my dad couldn't give me because he's diabetic. So then we were like going to the blood bank and everything was being done, but it played a toll on my body and I was in a state of coma or something. So at that time, I remember I almost passed out and then I felt a burning sensation all over my body. It was so hot and I could feel it and I could just hear like something is burning around me and it was so dark and everything. It was like a barren, a wasteland, and it was set on fire and everything. And then I heard a very harsh, I still remember that voice. It was very harsh and it was very loud. And it said to me like, "Hey, you don't belong in here." And I was like, in my own language, like in Hindi. It was not in English. It was in Hindi, तुम यहाँ नहीं आ सकते हो. That's what it said. It means that you don't belong in here. So I was like, okay. And then the next thing which I remember is a defibrillator up my chest and the doctor trying to pump me. I was like, what happened? Give me some water. And said, no, you're not allowed to drink water. You were like choking on something. And I was like, oh God, that was really hot. And I was in the hospital in the month of October and it gets very chilly in October, but I was still I was sweating and everything. So they just said you just had a cardiac arrest or something. But I know, it was a hell, and I just went straight up to hell, and then I just returned back. And I told this incident to my mom, and the next thing I was being told, like my mom, she always used to think like we are eating meat, so we are kind of killing animals for our fun. So we shouldn't be doing that, and maybe that's the reason that you were going to hell. So she said, okay, from now onwards, you're not gonna eat meat. So that's the day, and that's today. It's like 15 years. I haven't eaten an egg also. So that's the reason that I have turned into vegetarian because my mom told me if you keep eating meat, you're gonna go to hell, and I'm like, oh
Yeah.
God, I didn't wanna go there. But it's just her belief system. I'm not saying that if anyone is eating meat, they will go to hell. It's not like that. It's just like a different concept and belief system and everything. And I really miss, and deep inside, I really miss eating meat. Like if I see someone eating it, like there's saliva all over my mouth, I'm drooling. I'm like, okay, it's okay, I'm fine. You know. So,
I knew you were vegetarian, but I never knew that story of
Just
why
no,
one
no,
you're
bite.
no.
vegetarian.
Yeah, I don't tell it because people make fun of it. Like, oh, nothing happens like that. Even my dad,
Man,
he
it's
eats
so
meat
fast.
and he makes fun. Yeah, and my dad eats meat and he makes fun of me. He eats it in front of me, and I'm looking at him like that. I'm like, that's bad. And I say, come on, eat it. Nothing is going to happen. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to eat it. So actually, I don't enjoy eating it anymore because the taste buds are gone or something. But maybe in future, if I have to, then I'll eat it. No, no hard feelings.
Well,
Right.
we're not making fun of you. We won't, will we, Dave?
Yeah. I know. I've been told by people try eating
No,
beef,
I
it's
know.
nice.
No, I respect that, and I admire anybody that can say they're going to do something like that and stick to it. I don't know that I could stick to it.
Uh-huh. I know. It's just a way of living. Like if you're born in
No,
Canada and you are in negative Arctic temperature, then you have to eat meat. Otherwise, how will you survive in there? So it's just a way of living for me. Sorry. my tummy
Well,
is making
could I ask
noises.
a question, just
Yeah.
curiosity? And I don't
Yeah,
mean
why
to
not?
offend you or anything.
Yeah, exactly. No,
What
ask me
about
anything.
seafood? What about
Seafood,
seafood?
yeah,
Would
that
that be
also
okay?
is being counted as. No, I can't eat fish also. Like, I haven't eaten fish or something, but I really miss the taste of caviar. Like, it has been like 3 or 4 instances that I've eaten caviar. So, yeah, I can't eat that also. Yeah, I think. Like, when you're a vegetarian, you have to stop eating all sorts of
Oh,
meat and fish and also eggs.
strictly.
Yeah, yeah. But we are not vegan, so we consume a lot of dairy products.
Okay.
Yeah, we drink a lot of milk. I can't live without milk.
Okay.
Mm, yeah,
Well,
and
let's see. I was looking here. We're
Does
we're
your body
coming up
get
on.
curious on that?
It is. It's really. Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting. I'm curious about all of it too. I think it's great.
Mhm.
But we're coming up on an hour though, guys. And I was going to ask you. I mean, we probably just need to be wrapping it up, I guess.
Okay.
Can you think of
Uh-huh.
anything else that you wanted to ask him, David, or anything else we need to talk about? Or wanted to talk about, I guess I should say.
I'm
'Cause this is
fine
all
until the
just,
next time if we'd like to come back.
yeah. Would
Uh-huh.
you like to come back? So we'd like to have you
You know, I'm
again. Because I
fine till
mean,
the
Yeah, definitely. I'll like to be, the founding member of this panel. I'll want to be in every podcast. If you guys can, like, fit me in all the time, I'm happy.
yeah,
So, yeah.
well, I just think it was something different to talk about because I
heck
don't
yeah, it's a
know if
pleasure
I've
having
ever
you.
seen a podcast with somebody from India. Have you, David? Like, just I thought it was just interesting to talk about.
Yeah. I think I'm the best
Not on
person
the
to talk
cast.
to.
I know there's a guy on YouTube that goes to a lot of like ruins in old cities, houses, buildings over there, and does research. I can't remember his
Mhm.
name offhand, but he's pretty popular, you know.
Mhm. Mhm.
You have to send me a
Yeah,
link on that because I
And
don't know
some
that
of the
I've ever
places he
seen it.
goes, I'm like, man, how did I he said?
Mhm.
Yeah, there's one guy that's
Mhm.
like there's one that's kind of popular, and that's not very, you know, popular over there, doing the ghost
Mhm.
hunting. But yeah, there's
Mhm.
starting to be a few more shows, on YouTube about it.
Mhm. Yeah. Like in here, they were recently doing a past life regression therapy. Like they used to invite people on a show and they used to make them lie on something and they used to start with the hypnotics. And then they used to transcend into their past life and people used to tell them and then they used to correlate this is the reason that you hate particular thing that you hate fire because you were like died you died because of a fire or something. So yeah, there were like shows like that in here also, but then it turned out that it was all scripted and fake. And people lost interest in it. So, but yeah, stuff like that is real, especially in the small town. Like
Ah,
the small towns, they have got their own stories. People are not fake, and people are not scripting or making it out. But as you go in the metro cities, people are like phony. So you have to be very careful, like with whom you're talking. So the guy has not to be
right.
phony.
I
Hmm.
hate when people are phony or when things like that are scripted because it discredits the ones that are
Yeah.
real, and there are so many that
Yeah, but
are
you
actually legit. You know what I mean?
exactly,
So,
exactly. But you get to know, you get to see through them.
yeah,
Mhm.
it
Nah.
just takes that discernment, doesn't it, to be able to tell.
Mhm.
Well,
So
we'll probably wrap up then, guys. And I think it's been a really interesting, great show, and you've been a great
uh,
guest to have.
I
Okay.
loved it.
Yeah, we've
Um,
loved it too. Thank you so much.
okay,
And what we'll
okay.
do, we will try to have you back sometime. Like David said, I think it'd
Heck
be
Oh,
yeah.
great.
definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be $10. Okay, so I'll be
Okay.
there.
Heck yeah.
It's a deal. You know I'm good for
I'm
it.
just kidding. I'm just
Well
kidding.
worth it.
Okay.
Well,
Okay. So speak soon, guys, and you guys stay safe and enjoy your Sunday.
you too.
And yeah, a slug from Sugar. Hasta la
Okay.
vista, baby.
Yes, sir.
Bye. See y'all later.
Bye. Okay. Bye. Bye. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Trying to figure out how to exit out here.